Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This is my first video with voiceover since I got laryngitis, so I apologize that it sounds absolutely awful. I've been staying home all week per my doctor's orders because my day job is teaching and it requires me to speak all day, every day. So this is going to be a quick one take hopefully, so I don't overuse my voice because I would really like it back before the new semester starts next month. So yeah, today we are drawing a waffle, and I've had this sketch around for like a month now at least, and I was just so intimidated by it. Even drawing the sketch was really difficult. Like I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I don't really like geometrical things like drawing cars or houses and things like that. I like really organic looking things. So something like a waffle with this like grid, it just seemed really tedious to me. So it took me a while to get around to it, and I think it came out all right in the end. I just tried to keep it whimsical. I made sure I wasn't focused too much on making it absolutely perfect or super realistic. And I think that took a lot of the pressure off, and it looks a little bit less realistic than I think a lot of my artwork. Not that I ever go for hyperrealism or anything, but yeah, I think it would be nice. You know, it's a nice little illustration, like for what I usually do, stickers, notebooks, things like that. So I think it came out all right in the end. As you can see, I had to tape it down to my desk because I had the sketch around for a while, and I set it like on my shelf, and it was on top of other things, and it got a little bent, and the tape wasn't holding it down properly. But if I used stronger tape, then it would have ripped the paper. Whatever, I'm sorry. And this Bristol board surprisingly does warp a little bit, like if you use really juicy markers. So I'm tempted to try out some different kinds of marker paper. If you have any recommendations, let me know. I love how things blend on the Bristol board, but the warping is kind of inconvenient. But yeah, let's talk about what I'm doing. I started out with the pearl white, and unfortunately both of these markers are drying out because I use pearl white a lot. It's often the first color I put down for anything sort of brown or beige or yellow. And unfortunately, this is a marker from Can Do, which is a 100 yen shop. And I did buy two of them, right? I bought 2 packs. But the Can Do, where I usually buy these markers, has closed down, and not every shop had the markers. So I'm going to have to go searching. You can get them online, but you have to buy a pack of like 100. So no thank you. I'll probably just bring a swatch to like Yuzawaya or something, or Sekaido, and see if I can find a match in Copic. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. But I put that down first just as like, well, I gotta color something and I have to know where the edges of this thing are. So I just colored all of it in and switched between different markers and the chisel nib and the brush nib because it was running out. And then I decided to just go into each of the squares. I had no rhyme or reason to like when I did what part and how I did it, but I basically kept like a line of markers in front of me in the order from darkest to lightest and the order I was going to use them. And honestly, the worst part about this was that because I was uncapping and capping the markers so often, I didn't want to leave all, like there was like 5 markers. I didn't want to leave them all uncapped the whole time because I didn't want them to dry out. But because I was like, I think I must have accidentally colored on a lot of the lids as I closed them. I just got ink all over my fingers. So if you see my fingers turn brown, that's why. But yeah, I was trying to reserve a lot of the lights because there's a lot of like sort of see-through bits of waffle, like the lightest bits, and it looked kind of strange up close, but I think from a distance it looks pretty okay. And I did eventually add in a like slightly darker yellow, which I used for the butter initially and wasn't going to use for the waffle, but I added that. And so yeah, I just went for it. All these little squares, it felt like it took forever. This illustration took like over twice as long as they usually do, like in my last videos for the past few months, using alcohol markers, just because it was so tedious going around each of these little squares. But I don't know, it turned out in the end, I think, let me know what you think. Honestly, doing the little squares was like, it was okay because I knew what to do. I was like, okay, just fill in the squares, the shadows are in the lower left side, and just keep going in the same order you've been going in, from dark to light. But after that, I was kind of lost with what to do. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know like what angle to approach it from, or what to color next, or what color to use for like the non-divots, like the, I don't know what you call it, like the upper parts. At this point, I was like, that butter, I can't see her. So I took some colored pencils, and not really to do liner or anything, but basically the pencils are meant to be the color of whatever was going to make the shadow behind it. So it made it stand out more, just so I could see what I was doing. And these squares just looked really rough, so I just had to outline them so I knew what the shape was supposed to be. And I tried to add a little bit more depth with the darker color, but I ended up adding even more in the end, and you'll see that later on. But yeah, it just came down to outlining it for a bit. Normally I wouldn't use the colored pencil until the very end, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I can't see, I don't know where the edges are of anything, so I had to for a bit. And then this is where I was like, okay, I don't know what color I'm supposed to use here, but I'm just gonna go for it. So I was blending, this was like the second darkest color, and then like the third darkest color. And again, I was trying to leave some light spots. I ended up bringing a lot back with a white colored pencil, which, like, unfortunately, I didn't have a colored pencil that was able to be layered on top that wasn't white. I tried the Arctic ones in like a beigey color, and they just didn't show up at all. So I did later go in digitally and sort of color the white bit so it doesn't look stark white. It just looks like a lighter beige, which is what it looked like in the reference photo. And this is, I think, when it started to look like a waffle, when I started to get those edges and add a bit more shape, and then I was feeling a bit more confident about what I was doing. Still, I was nervous about the very top bits, and I was like, those all look really light. Like in the reference picture, there's a lot of light hitting the top bits, so I didn't know how to approach it because I already had the lightest color there, but I couldn't just, it didn't look right to just have it white. So at this point, I just had to go in with that same color that I used in the divots, and again try to leave out the lightest bits, and it still didn't look like enough. So I did that all around, and then I ended up going over with this yellow. So you can kind of see me blending it out, and part of what threw me off was the color shift. When you lay it down, it's always darker than when it dries. So I was like, oh no, it's too dark, and then it wasn't too dark. So it did end up being okay in the end. And yeah, it just sort of came together. I like how the butter finally started to stand out, but I did go around it with quite a bit of colored pencil after, just to sharpen up the edges because they kind of got blurry and a bit lost. Not much else to say. I'm gonna let you watch this for a bit, and then I'll come back later. Okay, so this is where I started going in with the colored pencil. For like the lighter bits that didn't have such dark shadows on the edges, I went with more of like a mid-tone brown, and then I used the darker brown for those edges that like had shadow behind them, but because this is going to be used for a lot of different things like a memo pad or a sticker, I didn't draw the shadow behind it. And that's what I do for like most of this artwork, to keep it versatile, or like to keep my options open. I don't add a background because even if I erase it later, it could affect, it could like bleed into the actual artwork, and that's a lot of editing to do. So no background, but you can still kind of see the edges where it gets the darkest, like where those shadows would be when I use the colored pencil like this. And then I just cleaned up that butter, again with the same color as what the shadow is behind it. And this is when I went in with the white. This is the Holbein soft white, and it looks okay, especially on camera from far away, but I think in person it's just like too white. I wish it was a beige, but like I said, I don't have a beige that layers well on top. And then just a little bit of gel pen. I didn't want too much because it was already pretty light. And that was about it. Fixed up, added a little bit more contrast in the darkest areas, and then that was gonna be it for this one. Again, I did go in digitally and change just the color of those pencil marks, and this is it. This is how she turned out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!